Hi, we're Quentin Curious Volumes. My name is James, or for today, James R., reader of nutritional labels. Why the amended sobriquet? Because I have been tagged by Robert G., reader of books, for his tag, the to read or reread to reread or not to reread. I think that's what. Anyway, Robert G., reader of books. It's a good channel. If you're not watching him, you should. Um, has done a tag with a bunch of prompts about the topic of rereading. Here is his explanation. A perennial topic among booktubers and readers in general is whether it's worthwhile to reread a book, or is it just a waste of time? It's a question I don't think has ever received its own proper formal post, i.e., one with prompts. If it's already been done, no offense intended. Come on, Bob. I'm not trying to take the wind from anyone's sails. Here's my take. Okay, so I don't think anyone gets offended if a tag topic is repeated, but I appreciate the the what do you call it? The intent. So let's see. Let's do these prompts. Number one: do you reread fiction? Why or why not? I do when I have. Why? Usually because the book is good and is worth revisiting from time to time. The last novel that I reread, I've been trying to think. I believe it was Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, and I think I reread that just because it's a good book, but also I reread it in advance of reading Percival Everett's James. But I would reread Huckleberry Finn just for the heck of it anyway, because it's a good book. I've reread. I'm not a huge rereader of things, but yeah, I've reread a number of fiction novels, often because I've forgotten them or they're classics that it's good to revisit just for the pleasure of living in those worlds again. Let's see. Do you reread nonfiction? Why or why not? I seldom reread nonfiction these days. I have reread nonfiction in the past, and actually, I still do occasionally reread some nonfiction, maybe not cover to cover, but perhaps in part. And let me explain. So when I was in grad school um, for ethnomusicology, we read primarily nonfiction books about anthropology and sociology and music books, and then when you're doing your own research, creating your own contributions, or even when you're doing your sort of end of the semester research papers, you're going to go back to those things that you read. You know, Typically in a graduate seminar in the humanities, you just get assigned a huge amount of reading, and when it comes, so you kind of race through a lot of it, and when it comes time to make a more considered statement about things, you will definitely want to go back and at least reread sections of it. And I also used to write some reviews of academic books for different journals, and in those cases, I wouldn't read the whole work more than once, but I would certainly reread sections, definitely ones that I was going to highlight as especially good or especially bad. And so recently I was commissioned to review a biography for Open Letters Review, and that involved me not rereading the whole thing in full, but I certainly revisited several sections of it um, to write that review. I'll leave a link to that review down below. I don't think I mentioned it on my channel before, but I reviewed a biography of the great guitarist and singer Doc Watson. Let's see. If you've read a, okay, hold on a second. If you reread fiction, what kind of fiction are you most likely to choose? Bestsellers, classical literature, genre fiction? What is your reason for the choice you've made? So that's a good question, and I think I'm most likely to read what we would call classics. But there's something interesting is that some of the things that I would suspect would not be rereadable are actually often the things that I do reread. So let me explain. Something like, okay, this is not something that I reread, but Sherlock Holmes stories. Now I've read a bunch of them, and I know that a lot of people love to reread those stories. Your real Holmesians. Um, and one would think that okay, it's a mystery. Once you know the mystery, the secret and how it's revealed. What's the point? But people love to live in that world. That late Victorian London, and with the tweed and the clubbiness and all that. So. Um, and to just hang out with those characters it is so much fun, right? And for me, I've reread Borges stories or Poe stories. I can reread um, the Telltale Heart any day. I mean, it's of course incredibly short, but just the kind of mood that he spins. There's no surprise at the end really, but just to see how he kind of creates that air of insanity is wonderful to me. And similar for Borges stories. They're small and they tend to have a little trick to them, but it's kind of neat to see the way that he kind of leads you down his path or his forking path, right? So, and then okay, if you reread nonfiction, what kind of nonfiction are you most likely to choose? Um, Again, if I'm rereading nonfiction, it's most likely because I'm doing some kind of research project around it, and I don't do a lot of research projects anymore, so I don't. But I don't rule it out. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I've got a full time job now, so I don't do too much of that kind of thing. Number six, how many times would you reread the same book? I don't know. I think the most I've reread a book as of now is probably four. And I think that is Dubliners, and possibly Hamlet. I might have read more than that. I might have read that more than four times, and I could imagine rereading. I will probably reread Hamlet many more times before I die. Well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But I would reread that. I would reread Dubliners again. It's a good book. Um, I'd reread short books. Probably I'd be more likely to just pick up to reread, or for a nonfiction. I guess something like 84 Charing Cross Road is a nonfiction book. I read it once. If I had a copy, I'd be happy to pick it up and reread that just about any day because it's such a delightful experience. So let's see. If you've read a book which has been translated from another language, would you reread the same book in a newer or different translation? Of course I would. I read Homer's poems, whatever they were giving out in high schools in the 1980s was what I originally read of them. And then in the last few years, I've read them again in the Fagles translations. And I have copies of other translations on my shelf for it. When it becomes time to read them again, I'll read them in another translation. Um, uh, so yeah, definitely would. Let's see. How many times would you reread the same book? I already answered that, didn't I? How many times? Yeah, I got a little bit out of order. So, sorry. Sorry. Let's see. What's the most recent book you've reread? Uh, that is another high school reread. The high school book revisited is The Glass Menagerie. I know I read this in high school, remembered nothing of it, and yeah, I read this back in January. Um, it's a play by Tennessee Williams, rather experimental. I did completely forgot about all the experimental stuff in it. When I think about, I mean, I'd forgotten almost every last bit of this. There was a book by a French literature professor that was translated into English called "How to Talk About Books You Haven't Read." I think that's what it was called. And in it, he raises the question, um, you can read a book in school and 20 years later remember nothing of the contents of the book, but know that you read it, and you can honestly say that you've read it. But how much can you say that you've read it if you've retained nothing of it, right? So I think he uses this in some playful way to insinuate that if someone who's read it and forgotten everything about it can honestly say that they read it, what's wrong with someone who's read a summary from saying that they've read it? Well, of course they're lying because they haven't, right? But I think he was doing some kind of Gallic trickery there. Of course, you can't trust those French, right? Um, and I'm also currently rereading Shakespeare's sonnets. I read through these in order. I mean, I've read them here and there, one or two at a time, throughout high school and undergrad as an English major. But I read through them start to finish in I think it was 2023 when I read through all of Shakespeare. And for Randy Ray, the Literate Texans Lone Star Book Club, in the month of April, he's got this as his selection. So I'm rereading this currently, and it is a delight, and I recommend Shakespeare's sonnets as a first time or reread. Tag some friends. So a lot of my usual friends have been tagged in the original by Robert G. Reader of Books. I'm going to tag three channels that are new to me. I think they're all pretty new channels that are well worth checking out. And the first one is Sandaline, and she is a literature graduate of Cambridge and reads a lot of classics, as you might imagine. Did a really fun video reviewing some recent Nobel Prize winners. She's just got she does some tags. It's a really cool channel. So that's one. Another is Felix and Blue is the name of the channel. The personality is someone named Felix, does a lot of Russian literature in translation, and is also, if you like the kind of stuff you see on this channel, you will probably like the kind of stuff you see on that channel. That's Felix and Blue. And I'm not sure where Felix is from, and I think that English is not Felix's first language, though Felix speaks English very well and, of course, reads a lot of books in English. Let's see, and the third one is Andrew at the channel You Could Be Reading More. Andrew started his channel sometime this year and has produced just a storm of videos, which are all really good. TBRs and tags and bookshelf tours. I just watched Andrew's video showing his collection of Bibles. So Andrew is a young person who is very bookish and a lot of fun. So check out that. So that's three strong recommendations for some good channels that could use some new subscribers. So anyway, that's what I have. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you later. Bye.